Hello friends, today I would like to talk about kingside attack and factors that will help you decide whether you should go for it or not. We're going to take a look at a fragment of an instructive Grandmaster game where general attacking principles can be learned and later be applied in your own games. Player with the white pieces was Grandmaster Kestony from Lithuania and black was Grandmaster Luke van Velde from the Netherlands. When we're deciding whether we should switch to strategic long-term kingside attack or not, we should consider two very important factors. First, am I dominating the center, or at the very least is opponent not going to be able to win over the center when I switch my forces to the king side? Because if you move your army to the king side while your opponent occupies the center with his pieces and you fail to give the checkmate on the king side, you're going to face a very strong army of opponents against which your pieces on the side of the board cannot fight effectively. For this reason, the attacker on the wing likes to close the center to ensure no counterplay there. Second thing I look at is if I'm able to bring more pieces to the king side than my opponent. In this position, white can bring the whole army. I can visualize all of these pieces easily coming to the king side, with all sort of queen g3s and rook e1 and perhaps e5 break. I can really see how I can maneuver them all to the king side. Black cannot keep up with the same number. And I don't see how black can create counterplay in the center at this very moment. When we're already in the middle game, we're allowed to move the same pieces twice. That's called maneuvering, a luxury that we a lot of the times don't have in the opening stage. And white here plays bishop to g5. The bishop from g5 starts looking at the main defender of the black's king side, the knight on the square f6. Perhaps when the time is right, we will exchange them in order to follow up with a tactical blow. Kicking the bishop out with a move h6 for black seems to be dangerous from practical point of view. Perhaps there is a rule that we should all follow most of the times, that when we're under kingside attack, we should not move the pawns near the king. It turns out here is an exception, and then engine just bravely plays h6 and nothing bad happens to black. But we humans, we tend to avoid that because most of the time this wouldn't be a good idea. And when we say principles, we mean that they are applied 80% of the time. I'm thinking that if black was to play h6, white perhaps could just play bishop to e3, hit the black's queen, and maybe switch the bishop to d4, where nevertheless we're still going to aim at this vital defender of the black's king, and perhaps follow up kingside attack with ideas of queen to g3. In our game, Luke van Velde played queen to d8, bringing back pieces to the king side. Here white follow up by bringing their own queen to the attack. Again, we can observe this move h6. Here white already has a lot of pieces to follow up bishop takes h6 sacrifice with. And after black accepts the sacrifice, black's king really gets very naked. The idea of e5 is of course to open up the bishop, which includes now another attacker for us to get to the king side, plus perhaps even the knight sometimes might use the e4 square. And after something like knight takes e5 and queen h6, white is threatening already ideas of knight g5 followed by sacrifice on f6, and mate on h7. At worst, if black plays all the best moves, white gets a perpetual check. However, if black goes wrong, it's possible to see black getting checkmated. So this idea of h6, while it's not something that engine is afraid of, for us humans it's not so easy to play that with a touch on our heart and calm mind. And that's why in the game black played rook to e8, simply developing the pieces. Here white plays e5, which brings another attacker into the game. Now we already have the bishop aiming at h7. And it's very easy to see already the threats of blacks, for example, of whites. For instance, if black plays knight takes e5, already there are tactics going on. For instance, knight takes, and then we remove the vital defender, and subsequently queen h7 gives an objectively winning position for white. That's why in the game black took on e5 with the pawn. Now white seizes his chance to take the knight off f6. Black is again unable to take with the bishop because of the same queen h7 idea. So black must take with the rook, which ensures us an idea of winning the pawn back with knight takes e5. Even here white has again tactical threats. When we are having very active army and a lot of the pieces looking at the king side, it's natural that there are tactics to our favor appearing there. For instance, if we just were to skip move, already white might be able to sacrifice the knight on f7. If king takes, then we can take on h7, and here there is a pin, so knight is unable to take, and I see many ideas here for white, just from rook e1 and developing to bishop g6, and perhaps black's king could even get checkmated in some cases. So black hurries up with the defense and plays bishop to e6 to ensure f7 is guarded, and white is again just bringing pieces to the king side more and more. Queen a5, knight e4, even more pieces are being brought to the king side. Queen takes e5 leads to knight f6, perhaps a discovered attack opportunities for white. In the game black played h6, and now white sacrifices material in order to open up the king and damage the fortress around it, and white is going to win the game with a beautiful attack. So rook takes f6. We have invested quite a lot of material, but black's king is completely naked and pieces are just coming to get it. So for instance, if f takes e5, queen h6, white is like full rook down, but there is no defense against ideas of rook g3, and black's king is simply in the box. In the game after rook e3, black just gave up the queen, takes, and white won this endgame where we have queen against two rooks with very unsafe king for black. So you saw a fragment of the game and essentially the factors that determined the kingside attack. One was being dominant in the center or not allowing opponent counterplay there, and two, an opportunity to bring a lot of the pieces to the king side. And essentially what a king side attack really is just bringing forces to the king side until you get a tactical shot, and then you win the game, or of course you fail with the attack and then your opponent might be winning the game. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please subscribe to my chess channel, put a like. If you have questions, you can leave a question in the comment section. You can also consider hiring me as your personal chess coach online. My contacts are on the right. That's my job for the last many years. I'm looking forward to making another video for you guys. Stay safe and see you in the next video.